Kindness doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes someone finally hears it. He's been working here for 9 years. No one knows his name. They call him Sir out of habit or, "Hey, excuse me," when the hallway floor needs mopping. He wears the same faded green uniform every day. He never complains, never lingers. He just works. Every evening around 6 p.m., when most employees head out, he does something strange. He lingers in the break room, checks the trash cans, and then, when no one's watching, he quietly opens his wallet and slips a folded $5 bill into the backpack of the same boy who waits for his mother by the vending machines. No one notices, except someone finally does. The man watching isn't just another employee. He's the CEO. He came in late that night, forgotten keys in hand, stress in his shoulders, and saw the janitor doing something no one expected. He didn't speak. He didn't interrupt. He just watched, and everything in his heart shifted. This is the story of Luis Ramirez, a soft-spoken janitor in a corporate office who changes lives not with speeches, but with quiet choices no one was supposed to see. And what happens when his kindness is finally noticed by someone who can change his life in return. It's about generosity with no audience, compassion without credit, and how one single moment becomes a ripple no one saw coming. If stories like this remind you of the kind of world we still believe in, the kind built on unseen kindness and real connection, take a second to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Because in a time where everything is loud, sometimes the softest things matter most. You don't have to be loud to change someone's life. You just have to be there. Luis Ramirez starts work at 4:30 every afternoon. Not 5 o'clock like the schedule says. Not because he's paid more. Just because he likes to ease into the building when it's quiet. When there's still light outside and the air smells like floor wax and paper. He wears the same thing every day: forest green coveralls, black sneakers, a key ring with 13 keys, 2 of which he never uses but refuses to remove. His face is warm but tired. His eyes hold stories no one's asked about. And his voice? Soft, like someone who knows silence better than noise. He walks through the front lobby of a high-rise office in downtown Dallas. Tech company. Big one. Sleek walls. Brushed aluminum. Conference rooms with names like Vision, Launch, and Disrupt. Luis doesn't belong in meetings. He doesn't present quarterly goals. He sweeps the same floors those executives cross without ever glancing down. And he doesn't mind. Or, at least, he never shows it if he does. Luis knows everyone, even if they don't know him. He knows that Steven from Product always spills coffee near the West elevator. He knows Monica in HR cries in the 4th stall around 2:30 every other Tuesday. He knows the CTO's dog is named Ruby and that the kid who waits in the break room around 5:45, Isaac, is her son. Luis always waves to Isaac. Never says much. Just a smile, a wink, and sometimes a snack from the vending machine if the boy's mom is running late. The money starts in month 3. Luis sees the boy digging in his backpack, looking for coins for a bag of pretzels. He doesn't ask, doesn't say anything, just waits until Isaac steps away to use the bathroom and gently places a folded $5 bill inside the side pocket. He does it again the next day, and the day after. Not every day, but often enough that Isaac never goes hungry again. He never tells the boy, never tells anyone, because to Luis, kindness doesn't need an audience. Luis lives alone in a 1-bedroom apartment 25 minutes away. His wife, Maribel, passed 7 years ago. Cancer. His daughter Leah is grown now, working night shifts as a nurse in Houston. They talk on Sundays. Always Sundays. His fridge is mostly empty. A few tortillas, eggs, rice. He doesn't splurge, doesn't travel, doesn't have social media. What he does have is time. Time to care in small ways. Time to notice things other people miss. On the 7th floor, the CEO's office glows with frosted glass and track lighting. Evan Michaels, early 40s, well-liked, fast-talking, forward-thinking. He's not cruel, but like most people in power, he looks past things that aren't his priority. And Luis? Luis is not a priority. Until one night, he is. It's a Thursday. Late. Luis is making his last rounds. Break room. Trash cans. Floor sweep. He hears the elevator ding. Someone's coming up. It's Evan, CEO. Forgotten keys. Head down. AirPods in. He walks toward the break room and freezes, because there in the corner is Luis, bent gently over Isaac's backpack. His hand, steady and quiet, tucks a folded bill into the side pocket. Luis zips the bag, pats it like a secret, and turns, only to see Evan watching. Their eyes lock. Luis flinches, caught. Evan doesn't say a word, just stares. Luis lowers his eyes, wipes his hands, nods awkwardly. Evening, sir. Evan nods back. Evening, and walks past. But inside, something breaks open. Evan can't sleep that night. He lies in bed thinking about that moment, about the man he's never spoken to, about the boy with the comic books, about how much $5 means to someone who earns what Luis does, and why he, with all his money, his position, his power, never noticed, never thought to ask, never thought to give. The next morning, Evan walks through the office differently. He notices the floors are spotless. The trash bins are always emptied before anyone arrives. The windows are always streak-free. And the break room? Clean, stocked, quiet. He finds himself asking his assistant, "What's the janitor's name?" She blinks. "I don't know." Evan nods. And that's when he decides. It's time to know. The world is loud about power, but quiet when it meets grace. Luis walks into the building the next day, slower than usual. His steps are careful, his eyes lower than normal, like a man who's been seen doing something that wasn't meant to be witnessed. He hasn't told anyone what happened, hasn't even called Leah, his daughter, like he normally would after something shakes him, because he's not sure what it was. Was it kindness? Or was it crossing a line? He keeps working, quietly, but something's off. He avoids the break room. Doesn't make eye contact with the boy, Isaac. Doesn't linger. He's afraid. Not of punishment, but of being misunderstood. Meanwhile, Evan Michaels sits in his office, but his mind isn't on the quarterly report. It's on the janitor, the backpack, the $5 bill, the care, the timing, the instinct, the grace. He keeps replaying it, not because it was shocking, but because it was real, more real than most of the goodness he sees at charity galas or award nights. He Googles the janitorial contractor, finds the employee roster, and there it is, Luis Ramirez, custodial staff. Start date, May 2014, 9 years, and Evan has never spoken to him. He asks HR to schedule a meeting. Why? Ron asks. He hasn't reported anything. I just want to talk. Is he in trouble? No. Will he think he is? Evan pauses. Maybe. The email arrives at 11:13 a.m. To Luis Ramirez. From HR office. Please report to room 7C at 3 p.m. today for a brief meeting regarding your recent activity. Luis stares at it. His hands tremble slightly. Recent activity? His mind spins. What did he do wrong? He wasn't stealing. He was giving, but the boy isn't his family. The money wasn't requested, and Luis doesn't want attention. He just wanted to help. Quietly. And now, it's not quiet anymore. He arrives early. 3 p.m. sharp. Room 7C is usually used for interviews. Glass walls, 2 chairs, neutral beige carpet. He walks in. Evan is already seated. Luis stops cold. Sir. Evan stands. Smiles. Luis, right? Please have a seat. Luis hesitates. Then slowly, carefully sits down. Evan's voice is soft, measured. I want to talk about yesterday. Luis lowers his eyes. I meant no harm, sir. I wasn't taking anything. Evan raises a hand, gently. I know. Luis breathes. Shaky. I didn't want the boy to go hungry. I thought maybe he didn't have. Evan stops him. Luis, you don't have to explain. Luis looks up. I saw what you did. I'm sorry. No, don't be. And then Evan says something Luis does not expect. I've been CEO here for 6 years. I've given bonuses, hosted fundraisers, built strategy decks on how to be a values-driven company. But yesterday, I saw more leadership in 5 seconds than I've ever put in a PowerPoint. Luis says nothing. He's not sure how to process praise from a man like this. Evan continues, "You didn't know anyone was watching. That's what made it real. And I think the rest of us need to learn from you." Luis swallows. His eyes glisten, but he fights it. He hasn't cried at work. Ever. "Sir, I don't need anything. I'm fine. I'm just—" "I know," Evan says, and that's exactly why this matters. Later that afternoon, Evan sends an internal company-wide email. Subject line, "The kindness we almost missed. Asterisk, yesterday I witnessed something I will never forget. A small act of generosity. Quiet. Unannounced. Pure. It wasn't a social media post. It wasn't in a staff meeting. It wasn't written into anyone's job description. But it showed me what we've been missing." Luis Ramirez, one of our longest-standing custodial staff, reminded me that culture isn't something we write. It's something we live. Asterisk, he ends with, "Look down less. Look around more. And if you're lucky, you'll see what I saw." Luis reads it that night in his small apartment. He stares at his name on a company-wide email. In bold, he thinks of Maribel, his wife, how she used to tell him, "You don't need a title to be someone's answer." He smiles, and for once, doesn't feel invisible. Some people chase attention. Others earn it and wish they hadn't. It starts with a LinkedIn post. Evan's email, the one about Luis, is so genuine, so unexpected, so human that someone screenshots it and shares it. No photo, no context, just the text and the caption. This is what real leadership looks like. A CEO who noticed a janitor quietly feeding a child. We need more of this. It spreads like wildfire. Within hours, it's on Twitter. By evening, it hits Reddit. By morning, it's on Good Morning America. Luis has no idea. He doesn't use social media. His phone is 5 years old. His data plan barely allows for text messages. When he walks into work the next day, he notices people looking not like before, not over him, at him, and not with indifference, with curiosity. By 10 a.m., HR calls, "Luis, you might want to come upstairs." He's led into a conference room where Evan is pacing. "Hey," Evan says, smiling awkwardly. "So, something happened." Luis blinks. "Did I do something wrong?" No, you didn't do anything. That's kind of the point." Evan hands him a tablet. The screen shows a news segment. A voiceover says, "Meet Luis Ramirez, the janitor whose simple act of kindness is inspiring a corporate culture revolution." Luis stares at it. His mouth doesn't move. Then, "They know about me?" Evan nods. "I'm sorry. I didn't plan for this." Luis hands the tablet back. Slowly. He doesn't speak for a long moment. Then, quietly, "I didn't do it for attention." "I know," Evan says. "That's why it matters." The next 48 hours are surreal. Media requests flood in. Local papers. National outlets. A podcast titled Hidden Heroes. A producer calls, offering to fly Luis to New York for a segment. He says no. He says no to all of them. Because Luis isn't built for spotlights. He's built for corners. For quiet. For caring without credit. The company wants to honor him. The head of marketing pitches a full campaign. What if we build a brand series around Luis? Call it Leadership at Every Level. Make him our face of kindness. Evan winces. He didn't ask for that. Exactly. That's why people love him. Brianna, sitting in the back, finally speaks. "You guys don't get it. He didn't become inspiring. He always was. The only difference is now we're uncomfortable that we never noticed." Silence. No one knows how to respond. That night, Luis stands at his kitchen sink. He's holding a letter. Handwritten. Folded neatly. From Isaac's mom. Asterisk, "Dear Mr. Luis, I found the $5. I found all of them. I knew it wasn't magic. I just didn't want to stop you. Because I didn't know how to say thank you for seeing my son. Not just helping him, but really seeing him. Thank you for giving him dignity, not pity. He needed that. So did I." Asterisk, Luis folds the letter gently. and cries, alone, softly, like someone who's carried too much for too long, and just now realizes someone else has noticed. The next day, Evan stops Luis in the hallway. Hey, got a second? Luis nods. Evan looks nervous. I want to offer you something, he says, but only if you want it. Luis tilts his head. We're launching a new program, Evan explains, an employee-led mentorship initiative, helping younger workers find guidance and support, especially the ones people tend to overlook. He takes a breath. I want you to lead it. Luis blinks. Me? You. You've mentored with actions your whole life. Now, maybe it's time to let others learn from your heart while you're still here to teach it. Luis doesn't say yes. Not right away, because he doesn't need to be anyone's role model. But that night, he thinks of Isaac. He thinks of the cleaning cart, the vending machine, the moment someone finally saw him. And for the first time, he wonders what it might feel like to step out of the corner, not for praise, but for purpose. I never asked to be seen, but if I am, maybe I can help someone else feel seen too. There comes a moment when silence isn't grace anymore. It becomes surrender. Luis doesn't recognize the poster at first. It's hanging in the main lobby of the building. Glossy, colorful, corporate, a full-size image of him, mop in hand, soft smile on his face, with bold words across the top. Kindness has no rank. Meet Luis Ramirez, the heart of our company. His mouth goes dry. He wasn't told, wasn't asked. He just became a message he never agreed to wear. Inside the elevator, his reflection stares back at him in chrome. He's still in his green uniform, still carrying his cart, still wearing the same scuffed sneakers. But now, people nod at him, smile at him. Some whisper as he passes. That's him. The janitor from the article. He's a legend. And all he feels is strangely alone. Upstairs in the break room, Isaac runs to hug him. Mr. Luis, you're famous now. Luis kneels beside him, smiles softly. Fame isn't always good, me, Joe. Isaac frowns. But they said you're like a superhero. Luis taps the boy's chest gently. You don't need to be famous to do good. You just need to keep your heart clean. Meanwhile, the company rolls forward. The PR team launches #BeLikeLuis, a campaign inviting employees to share stories of small acts of service. They put his face on the internal newsletter. A quote is printed on coffee mugs in the executive lounge. They plan a surprise Luis Appreciation Day next Friday, complete with balloons, a plaque, and a 2-minute highlight video. But no one asks him. Not once. Brianna pulls Evan aside. This doesn't feel right, she says. Evan looks confused. People are connecting. It's creating real change. She nods. Sure. But whose story are we telling now? His or ours? Evan pauses. And in that pause, the truth begins to settle. Luis sits on the roof during his dinner break, alone, sandwich in hand, looking out at the city he's cleaned for decades. And for the first time, he doesn't feel like it's his. He doesn't hate the attention. He just misses the purity, the quiet, the knowing that the $5 in a backpack wasn't a campaign, wasn't a case study, wasn't a symbol. It was love, private, simple, real. The next morning, Evan finds Luis scrubbing a stairwell. Hey, he says out of breath. Got a minute? Luis doesn't stop scrubbing. Evan shifts awkwardly. I saw the poster. The campaign. I just want you to know I meant well. Luis finally looks up. Do you want me to be a man? He asks. Or a message? Evan is stunned. I'm sorry. Luis wipes his hands. When I cleaned your floors, I was invisible. When I gave away $5, I was a saint. But I didn't change. You did. Evan exhales. Deeply. Luis continues. You want people to care like me? Then let them care in private. Let them choose kindness without needing credit. Don't sell my silence. The words hit hard. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just honest. The kind of honesty that doesn't echo in a boardroom, but lives in it. That night, Evan pulls the posters down. He emails the entire company. Asterisk, Luis asked me a question I'll never forget. Do you want to be a man or a message? And the truth is, we didn't honor his kindness. We branded it. So from today forward, hashtag Be Like Luis is not a campaign. It's a quiet challenge. Not to mimic, not to film, just to care. And to let it be enough. Asterisk, the next morning, Luis finds something in his locker. No cameras, no fanfare, just a note, folded. Thank you for reminding us that real leadership doesn't wear a lanyard. A coworker. He smiles, and for the first time in weeks, he feels seen again, for the right reasons, not as a symbol, as a soul. You never know who's watching, or how long they've been carrying what you gave them. It's a rainy Wednesday. Luis pushes his cart down the west hallway, like he's done 1,000 times before. The halls are quieter now. People look him in the eye more. But he still moves like he's invisible, by instinct, not shame. He's learned how to stay out of the way. How to move without taking up space. But today, someone steps into his path. Excuse me, sir. A tall man in a navy blue suit. Not someone Luis recognizes. New face. Confident posture. Slight, southern accent. Are you Luis Ramirez? The man asks. Luis nods, cautious. Yes, sir. The man smiles. I've been looking for you. They sit in a small break room. Coffee, plastic chairs, rain tapping the window. The man introduces himself. My name's Anthony Barnes. I'm the incoming executive chair of the company. Luis blinks. You're replacing Mr. Michaels? Anthony nods. He's stepping back. Still on the board. But I'll be handling day-to-day strategy. Luis shifts in his seat. Not nervous, just unsure why he's here. Then Anthony leans forward. Eyes warm. Voice steady. Do you remember a boy named Marcus Barnes? Luis squints, thoughtful. Was he a summer intern? Wore glasses? Liked lemon candy? Anthony smiles wide. That's him. He was my nephew. Dropped out of college. Lived with me for a while. Luis tilts his head. What happened to him? Anthony exhales. He's alive today because of you. Luis freezes. What? Anthony nods. You don't remember, do you? Luis says nothing. Anthony continues. He told me this story. Said he used to come to this building every week to apply for jobs. No one looked at him. He was broke, depressed. Said one day, you saw him sitting in the stairwell. You sat next to him, gave him half your sandwich, told him, don't let today decide who you are, then handed him a list of places that were hiring. Luis blinks. Slowly. The memory comes back, vague but familiar. I remember a kid, didn't think I did much. Anthony smiles. You did more than enough. He got a job, got back on his feet. Now, he's married, has a daughter, and every year on his birthday, he tells her the story of the janitor who saved him with a sandwich and a sentence. Luis looks down, not because he's ashamed, but because he's overwhelmed. This is the kind of moment that undoes you, quietly, not with fireworks, with truth. Anthony reaches into his briefcase, slides over an envelope. This is from me and my family. Luis opens it. Inside, a check, a real one, a number that makes his hand shake. He tries to push it back. I can't accept this. Anthony puts a hand on the envelope. Gentle, firm. You didn't ask for it. You earned it years ago. But that's not all. Anthony clears his throat. There's something else. Luis looks up. I want you on our new employee advisory board. 5 staff members. All departments. Real voices helping shape policy. Luis stammers. I clean floors. And that's exactly why I want you, Anthony says. You see what we don't. You felt what we ignore. That makes you qualified, not disqualified. Luis is quiet for a long time. Then, finally, he says something he never imagined hearing himself say. Okay, I'll do it, but only if I still get the mop. Anthony laughs. Deal. The news doesn't make headlines. No press, no camera crew, just a new name quietly added to the internal org chart. Luis Ramirez, advisory board member, in a green uniform, still carrying a mop, but now carrying something else, 2. A seat at the table. That night, he opens his notebook. Yes, Luis has a notebook. Worn edges, spiral binding, notes about cleaning supplies, quotes he overhears, grocery lists. But on the last page, he writes something different. What you give away might be the only thing someone carries through their worst day. He closes the notebook, looks out the window, and for the first time in a long time, he doesn't feel like the helper. He feels whole. Clapperboard coming up in part 6, Fallout. Not everyone is happy. Some staff push back. They whisper, "Why him?" And Luis must navigate a new kind of judgment, from above, not below. But this time he doesn't shrink, because once you know your worth, you walk different. Some people love your story, as long as you don't sit next to them while it's told. Luis shows up to his first advisory board meeting 15 minutes early. Not because he's nervous, because he wants to know the room. The chairs, the table, the people. He wears the same thing he always wears, his green coveralls. Someone suggests getting him a blazer. He says, "No thanks, I'm not cold." The meeting begins. 4 other members, managers, directors, 1 senior HR rep. Everyone introduces themselves, where they studied, how many teams they've led, projects they've managed. When it's Luis's turn, he says simply, "I've been working here for 9 years. I know what the break room smells like when people cry, and I know which floors squeak loudest, even when folks pretend they don't." Silence. Then a tight smile from the HR rep. "Well, we're excited to have a different kind of perspective." Later that day, whispers begin. Not loud, not cruel, but sharp, controlled, passive. What does a janitor know about strategy? This is just PR cleanup. It's performative, nothing more. Luis hears them, not directly, but through tone, through glances, through the way conversations shift when he walks into a room. In the staff cafe, 2 employees lower their voices as he passes. "Why him?" One says, "There are engineers who've been here longer." Luis grabs his tea, smiles, walks on, but it sits with him, because it's not the first time he's heard that question. Why him? As if kindness needed credentials. He doesn't complain, but he does start writing more in his notebook. 1 page reads, "They celebrated me when I was quiet. Now that I speak, they question if I belong." At home, he calls Leah his daughter. He tells her everything. The boardroom, the stairs, the muttered doubts. She listens, then says, "You spent your whole life making things shine. That doesn't stop just because now they see your reflection in it." Luis chuckles. "You always say it better than me. I learn from you." The next meeting is different. A discussion about reworking the overnight shift benefits. Luis raises a hand. "I think we should ask the actual night staff what would help them, not guess." A few heads nod. The HR rep interrupts. "We have survey data." Luis responds, "Data tells you what's common. Talking tells you what's human." Silence again, but this time a pause of respect. 1 week later, Evan calls Luis into his office, closes the door. "I need to say something," Evan says. Luis nods, waiting. Evan looks at him, really looks. "I knew it would be hard for you to be seen. I didn't realize it would be hard for others to accept it." Luis shrugs gently. "I've been ignored longer than I've been noticed. I'll survive both." Evan leans forward. "I want to promote you." Luis smiles. "I don't want a new title." Evan blinks. "Why?" Luis stands, picks up his mop from beside the chair. Because sometimes the most powerful person in the building still needs to know how to clean up after others. But later, Luis does ask for one thing. Not for himself. For the team that works overnight. For the woman who scrubs the lobby floors at 3 a.m. with torn gloves. For the young man who hasn't taken a sick day in 3 years because nobody covers the trash route. He sends Evan a list. No fluff. Just needs. New uniforms. Better gloves. Holiday bonuses. More break time. And at the top, one line. Kindness isn't scalable unless it's systemized. The changes go through quietly. No press release. But one night, Luis walks past the lobby and sees Maria, the overnight cleaner, holding up a new pair of gloves like they're gold. She catches his eye, smiles. No more blisters, she says. He nods and keeps walking. He doesn't need applause. But sometimes, respect sounds like silence that doesn't turn away. Some praise fills a room. But the right words, they fill a soul. Luis is in the lobby again. Same mop, same rhythm, same green coveralls. But this time, the floor isn't what he's focused on. Because something is shifting. Not outside. Inside. People greet him differently now. Not with pity. Not with "you're the janitor from LinkedIn, right?" But with something rarer. Respect. A nod. A handshake. Not because he saved the company. Not because he became a meme. But because somehow he stayed himself through it all. Still, there's something Luis can't shake. A quiet ache. He doesn't name it. He just feels it. Like a note that's never been played. A word that never found its way out. It finds him on a Thursday. Late afternoon. The building's mostly empty. He's restocking paper towels when he hears footsteps. He turns and sees her. Mrs. Evelyn Jameson, the former VP of Operations. Retired 3 years ago. In her 60s now. Sharp suit. Softer eyes. She's visiting for a board dinner. But the moment she sees Luis, she stops walking. He sees something flicker in her expression. Recognition. But also regret. "Luis," she says. He nods politely. "Ma'am." She steps closer. Folds her hands in front of her. "I never told you something I should have said a long time ago." He waits. Unsure. She takes a breath. "There were days I saw you pushing that cart, carrying that mop, and I assumed you were just doing a job." She swallows. "But I watched what happened this year, and I realized I never saw you. Not really." Luis says nothing. He's not angry. He just listens, like he always does. She continues. "You gave more to this building than most of us ever did, and we didn't thank you. Not once." He looks at her. Steady, gentle, still quiet. And then she says it. The sentence. Simple, human, long overdue. "I'm sorry. And thank you for seeing us, even when we didn't see you." Luis doesn't cry, but something melts inside. That ache, the quiet, heavy ache, it exhales. Finally, he nods slowly, then says soft and true, "It wasn't your job to see me, but I'm glad you did anyway." She smiles through wet eyes. They don't hug. They just stand there. Two people who finally understand the value of a moment that passed too many times without pause. Later, Luis walks back to the janitor's closet. He opens his notebook, turns to a clean page. He writes, "I didn't need them to say it, but hearing it let something go I didn't know I was carrying." That night, he takes the long way home. He gets off the bus a stop early, walks past the flower stand his wife used to love. He buys one white daisy, carries it in his pocket, goes home, places it next to her picture, smiles. Asterisk, "You were right, Mari," he whispers. "Sometimes the world does remember the quiet ones." Asterisk, the most powerful thing you can hand to someone is the belief that they matter. Saturday morning, 8:42 a.m. Luis isn't at work. He's walking through the doors of a small community center 3 blocks from his apartment. He's not here to clean. He's here for something bigger. The center runs a weekend program called First Step, free mentorship for kids who've fallen behind in school or in life. Luis heard about it from Isaac's mom. "Just go," she said. "You don't have to teach anything. Just be there." So here he is. Inside, there are 10 kids, ages 10 to 15. Loud, restless, beautifully chaotic. A volunteer greets him. "You must be Mr. Ramirez." Luis smiles. Luis is fine. They assign him to a boy named Devin, 13, skinny, quiet, wears his hoodie up even inside, doesn't make eye contact. Luis doesn't push. He just sits beside him, hands him a pencil, and says, "I'm not a teacher. I just know what it's like to not be sure anyone sees you." Devin doesn't reply, but he does start writing. Over the next few Saturdays, something changes. Devin starts showing up early. He starts asking questions. He starts drawing big, messy pictures of futuristic cities, all held together by underground tunnels. Why tunnels? Luis asks. Devin shrugs. It's where the real stuff happens, like where the people who make things work live. Luis nods. Funny. I spent most of my life underground too. Devin grins. Not big, but real. One afternoon, Devin stays late. He says, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you ever hate being invisible?" Luis looks at him. "Sometimes, but only when I forget what I'm really doing." Devin waits. Luis continues. "See, being invisible means you can see everything. And once you see, you can choose who you want to become." Devin nods slowly, then quietly says, "I think I want to be someone like you." Luis swallows hard, not because he's emotional, but because that sentence is heavier than any mop he's ever carried. That week, Devin gives Luis a drawing. It's a sketch of a tall building. At the bottom, people with briefcases, computers, coffee. In the middle, a floor with wires, pipes, tools. At the very bottom, a janitor holding it all up with one arm. Underneath, Devin wrote, "The strongest floor." Luis tapes it inside his notebook, right next to the quote from his wife. A month later, Devin's school counselor emails Luis. He reads it 3 times. Then again, the counselor writes, "Asterisk, Devin has shown the most growth we've seen all year." He says he wants to build tunnels that carry people forward. I asked him why. He said, "Because someone carried me when I didn't even know I was heavy." Asterisk, Luis closes the laptop, looks at the sky outside, and says to no one in particular, "You see that, Mari? We're still helping." At work, things keep going. Quiet, steady, clean. But now, Luis does more than mop. He mentors new custodial staff. He holds listening circles with night shift workers. He helps the company start a scholarship fund, not in his name, but for kids like Devin. No logo, no big launch, just applications, just access, just possibility. And then, one day, Isaac, now 10, runs up to Luis in the hallway. "Mr. Luis, guess what?" "What?" "I got picked to give the speech for Kindness Week." Luis kneels. "Really? What are you going to say?" Isaac smiles wide. "I'm going to tell them about you. About the day you gave me money for snacks. But mostly, about how you made me feel like I was already important." Luis's throat tightens. He nods. "That's the best kind of story, me, Joe." That night, Luis opens his notebook. Final page. Blank. He writes, "The loudest legacy is not in buildings. It's in people who believe they can build." He closes the book, and with it, closes a chapter. Not an ending, just a pause. Because the story, it keeps moving. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you'll ever hear is someone else repeating the words you once said in silence. Monday morning, 7:54 a.m. Luis steps off the bus with a cup of black coffee and a soft smile. The sun isn't fully up, but the building already buzzes. Except today, something's different. The receptionist stands up when he walks in. "Good morning, Mr. Ramirez." She says it like she means it. Not because she has to, because she wants to. Upstairs, a junior analyst holds the elevator for him. Not just politely, deliberately. When Luis thanks her, she says, "You taught us that small things matter big." Luis tilts his head. "I did." She smiles. "You do." Around the building, signs of change bloom quietly. A senior engineer starts walking new interns around the building, including the custodial route, showing them where everything really works. Someone places a stack of prepaid bus cards in the break room. No name, just a sticky note. For someone who needs a better morning. Inspired by Luis. A quiet kindness board appears in the hallway. Notes pinned without names. Gratitude scribbled in haste. To whoever left snacks in the overnight fridge, thank you. To the one who noticed I was crying in the bathroom, you saved my day. To Luis, for reminding us what work really means. Luis doesn't post about it. He doesn't take credit. He just walks by each note and lets them mean what they mean. At the community center, Devin is now helping younger kids. He brings snacks, fixes pencils, sits with one boy who won't speak, just like he once did. Luis watches from the side, unseen. And Devin says something that makes him pause. You don't have to be loud to be worth listening to. Louis smiles. His words. In someone else's voice. That's legacy. One afternoon, Evan visits Luis in the janitor's closet. Still the same place. Still smells like lemon and effort. Evan looks around. I've been thinking, he says, about retiring early. Luis raises an eyebrow. Evan laughs. No scandals. No drama. Just time to do something different. Like what? Evan shrugs. Something smaller. Realer. I want to help where I'm needed, not just where I'm paid. He looks Luis in the eye. You made me remember why I started all this. Luis nods. Then go be useful. But remember, you don't need a stage. Just space. They shake hands. No titles. No speeches. Just respect. That night, Luis rides the bus home. Window seat. Breeze against his face. He hears a voice from the back, two teenagers talking. Yeah, and this janitor guy at my cousin's office did this thing, like, just help people, and now the whole place is different. Luis smiles. They don't know it's him. That makes it better. He gets off one stop early again, walks past the flower stand. The woman there hands him a white daisy. No charge, she says. Someone paid it forward. Said it was for you. He nods, takes the flower, carries it home. At home, he places the daisy next to Maribel's photo. He whispers, the world's softer now, Mari. A little, but enough. The next day, HR emails him. They want to know if he'd like to lead the company's new hire welcome walk. Show new employees the real workings of the company. Not the PowerPoint. The people. He agrees. And he doesn't clean the route before they arrive. He leaves it how it is. Because sometimes seeing the work is part of respecting it. As the group finishes the walk, a young new hire, maybe 22, asks, Mr. Ramirez, why do you still clean even now? Luis thinks for a second, then replies, because what I do keeps everything else standing, and if I stop, someone might forget that's true. Later, he opens his notebook one last time. He writes, I used to move through this world quietly. Now, I move through it clearly, not to be seen, but to remind others they should never feel invisible. You don't need the whole world to say thank you. Sometimes one small voice is enough. It's raining. Light, soft, steady. Luis stands at the airport gate, boarding pass in hand. He's never flown before. Never needed to. But today, the company gifted him a ticket, a thank you for a decade of care. Destination, Houston. To visit Leah. She doesn't know he's coming. He plans to knock on her door with flowers. 2 white daisies in a paper napkin. Gate B6 is almost full. Families. Travelers. Business suits. Luis waits quietly in the corner. Same posture as always. Small, humble, present. Then a little girl drops her toy giraffe near his feet. He picks it up, hands it to her. She grins. Says nothing. Just hugs it tight. The mother nods, mouthing thank you. Luis smiles back. No words. He's used to that kind of gratitude. The kind that lives in eyes, not applause. They begin to board. Luis steps into the jet bridge. His shoes squeak slightly. He clutches his small backpack, looks up at the flight attendant. She beams. Welcome aboard, Mr. Ramirez. He blinks. It's not just a greeting. She knows his name. He nods slowly. Thank you. Row 12, seat A window. As he settles in, he notices the seat beside him is still empty. Until a boy, maybe 10 years old, slides in, skinny, hoodie pulled over his head, backpack fraying at the edges. Luis smiles at him. The boy doesn't smile back, just stares at the tray table. Luis doesn't push, but when the seatbelt light dings and the plane begins to taxi, the boy speaks. You're the janitor, right? Luis turns to him, surprised. I saw the article, the boy adds. My teacher made us read it. Luis chuckles softly. That's so. The boy fidgets. My name's Elias, he says. I used to think being a janitor meant you weren't smart. Luis nods, not offended. You're not the only one. But then, Elias continues, I read about you, and I thought. He pauses, then says simply, maybe people like me can matter too. Luis doesn't answer right away. He just watches the clouds out the window. then turns back to Elias and says, "You already matter, Mijo. The world just takes time to catch up." Elias blinks, then smiles barely. But Luis sees it, and in that smile, he sees every dollar he gave away, every hallway he cleaned, every whisper he didn't respond to. All of it, worth it. The flight is quiet. Elias falls asleep halfway through, head tilted slightly onto Luis's shoulder. Luis lets him stay. As the clouds float past and the engines hum, Luis closes his eyes too. For the first time in years, he rests, not because he's tired, but because he knows his work is still flying forward. In new hands, new hearts, quietly, beautifully, eternally. The plane lands in Houston. As they stand to board, Elias turns to him. "Hey, Mr. Ramirez?" Luis looks at him. "Yes." The boy hesitates, then says, "Thank you for not staying invisible." Luis places a hand on the boy's shoulder. "No, Mijo. Thank you for seeing me." He steps off the plane, two daisies in hand, a story behind him, a future ahead, and for the first time, the world doesn't feel so big, because somehow he helped shape it. Sparkle's final line, asterisk, and as the terminal fills with strangers, one quiet man walks forward, no longer part of the background, but part of the blueprint. Asterisk Dove,